57% of them were human caused. $159 million of state funding has been spent on fire suppression over a 5-year span, 2019 to 2024. The state had a 93% catch rate, meaning only 89 of last year's fires exceeded 10 acres. Got to get it while it's small. So earlier today, Governor Cox signed an executive order to enhance Utah's wildfire preparedness and improve coordination among state, local, and federal partners ahead of the 2025 traditional fire season. He says despite being proud of Utah firefighters and first responders' work, he would like to make sure the state is ready for the incoming season. California has definitely shown us that the unexpected has become the new normal. So to learn more about what can be done here and this order, I spoke with Jamie Barnes, director of the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. Take a listen. The governor signing the executive order today, what does that look like for the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands?
Yeah, so really this executive order is just for us to make sure we're prepared as we're moving into this fire season. So really it's just a check on, are we prepared? As you know, we've seen some things play out this year. We saw the LA fires, and then we saw some fires in Texas and Kansas and Oklahoma, where some of our neighboring states didn't fare so well. And that's something we don't want to be caught in Utah. And so it's really an opportunity. I praise Governor Cox for his initiative on this order to really take a look at, are we prepared for an event like that here in Utah? And what does that mean?
What is this working group made up of, and what is the goal of the working group here to see itself play out and implement some of the findings?
Yeah, so that working group is for us to take some steps to look at where are those hazardous fuels here in Utah? What does it look like as far as resources here in Utah? And what would it look like as we were moving into an event such as the LA fires, and how would we start initiating resources, and where are those hazardous fuel areas that we worry about here in Utah? So really just taking a look at, are we prepared? And not only that, but are our local communities prepared? Are our citizens prepared? Have you taken a look at what it would look like if you had a fire in your community? Do you know where your evacuation routes are? Are you prepared if you were told you had to evacuate your home? What would you be taking with you if you were told that it's time to evacuate, and how would you go about that?
So it seems like the working group is state groups, right? But how do you hope that collaborates with your federal partners here in the state, whether it be the Forest Service, BLM, tribal folks, however that looks, and then obviously the local municipalities that also work on, being first responders in the event of any fire that we have?
Yeah, well, fire is an interagency effort. As you know, we can't do it alone. So it's bringing together all of our partners, and it's asking those tough questions of how are we going to work together? But it's also bringing together our state partners. So when we have a wildfire, we work with all our partners. We work with the Department of Emergency Management. We work with DPS. We work with our local sheriff's department. We work with our counties. We do this all together. So it's working with all of those agencies on the ground to say, are we prepared? Do we have the resources in place? And just making sure that we're being good partners and that everybody is aware of what needs to be done.
As you go from year to year, I'm sure there's always the discussion of what else can we do, or what can we improve on? What are some of the topics of discussion for looking ahead to this year as we sit in late April and we're starting to warm up here? Are there any things that you're really hoping to get out to the public or out to your other agencies you work with about what there is a chance to improve on as fire could linger here shortly?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is we can't be complacent. We have to realize that this could happen in Utah. We hope that it doesn't. But we're starting to warm up. Our temperatures are starting to get warmer here during the day. We're seeing some drier conditions down south. And so people need to be aware of what's going on in their neighborhoods. We're staffed up. We're prepared. If we were to have an event like that. And the likelihood of that happening, we hope that it doesn't. But just talking to our local community partners, our local fire departments, and making sure that they're ready, which we know that they train and that they're prepared for things like this. this, but making sure that we're all ready to act together. That's the biggest thing. And that's part of the governor's executive order, is to make sure that we come together in events like this and that we can make sure that we have that preparedness. And so it's a check on those resources. So we'll put together this working group. We'll provide a report to the governor by June 1st of the preparedness and if we're ready, and we will be, and we'll make sure that things run smoothly this season.
I know on the state level, you've taken a lot of initiative over the last couple of years to get as much equipment and aircraft and everything at your fingertips that you can, kind of just ready for whatever needs to happen. Do you feel like there's anything else you want to add to that list, or is it always there's always a list, a wish list of more that you could have to be ready?
Yeah, the state of Utah has done a great job at becoming proactive, and we've built up capacity, with apparatus, with firefighters, building an aviation team. But one of the other things that we've also been proactive in is fuels mitigation. And that prevention and preparedness method is what we're trying to be better at. And mitigating those hazardous fuels is something that we've been really good at getting a handle on. Recently in the legislature this last year, Representative Casey Snyder passed a bill, HB 48, that talked about prevention work in the WUI, and also getting landowners in the WUI to be aware of the dangers in the WUI and starting to mitigate those hazardous fuels in that WUI area. So that's something the division has spent a lot of time on the last couple of years, is trying to do proactive fuels mitigation work and mitigating those hazardous fuels. And that's something I would like to get better at. It's a cost effective tool, but it also costs money to mitigate those fuels. And it's not something that once we do it, we're just done. We have to keep doing that over and over again as those fuels grow back. And so that's something that we need to get better at doing. We need to do it across the state, and we need to do large landscape scale projects to make a difference.
It's an appropriation or a request regarding the AI detection cameras. Has there been any movement on that?
Yeah, that's something we're looking into to get better at detecting fires in these rural areas, in the areas like the Wasatch Front, where there's a plume of smoke that goes up. People let us know. But in those rural areas where we see, wildfires and there's not a big population, having AI detection in those areas is something we're trying to get money for, so we can have cameras in those areas. So that's something that the state has been looking into. That bill wasn't successful, that RFA during the session, but it's something we're looking into still. We do have some different areas that we're exploring on how we can use cameras in those rural areas so that we know when a fire spikes up.